with the showcase next weekend, I need to fine-tune my deck of choice. Lurrus, Paradoxical Outcome. All right, welcome back, Vintage Gamers, to the Saturday challenge before the Showcase and the RCQ. Both of those are happening in the next 2 weekends. High stakes vintage action happening on the best place to play Magic the Gathering online. Don't listen to what the haters tell you on the Twitter. We're in a great spot. We're going to just play a very stock and standard PO list here of my making. This is what I am testing for the Showcase next weekend. It is a base blue-white PO deck that is splashing black and red for powerful cards, Demonic Tutor, Yogg-Will, and Fourth Air Lingas. I think Fourth Air Lingas is just by far the best true like storm spell, basically, in the deck. It's a storm spell that, in combination with Paradoxical Outcome, making basically infinite mana. It's basically a storm spell, and then when it's in the mid game, early game, you can drop down a few tokens and then have a draw engine. So it's by far the best storm spell of that kind of variety. Demonic and Yogg-Will are just extremely powerful restricted cards, and going for an extra black splash when you're playing Lurrus is not really a huge deal. And then your base blue-white so that you can play all the best sideboard cards, and then some of the best removal-based cards, Swords, Balance, Portable Hole, are all really good at helping you manage the board state. And then sideboard for Swords is the best removal in the format. You've got lots of really powerful answers like Containment Priest, repeatable artifact removal, and Seal of Cleansing. And then Prismatic Ending is really, really strong in the Mirror and other combo-based Lurrus matchups because you don't want to keep in Swords to Plowshares in the Mirror. You only want to have removal that's hitting Lurrus, but also hitting artifacts. So things like Prismatic Ending and a Braid are really, really strong. I would not play... I mean, it's hard to say I would not play. I would not be happy about playing Arena Vintage if it was there because I don't like the interface on Arena. I think the interface on Arena is extremely poor. But the problem is I would probably have to play it just because of the sheer number of players who would be there. So I would say I would not be happy, but I would likely have to play it. That being said, Magic Online is an amazing place where you can play 4 tournaments a week of Vintage, which is really sweet. Anything else about this list? I don't think so. A little bit heavier on Dredge hate than normal just because people will register Dredge no matter what, apparently. So yeah, there's that. So yeah, this is got a basic island in here. This is basically my blue-white PO list, splashing a couple of the most powerful cards in the format, and I will see you in round 1. All right, here we go. We're playing 2 + 2 is 5. Last night they had some savage 7-card Dredge hands against me. Let's see what happens today. I have a cat. This hand doesn't function, so that's a good start. This hand also doesn't function. Man, I am having a good time, and my opponent is on Dredge, so that's bad for me. They kept their 7 because of course they did. I don't know if I have it in me, chat. I obviously, if anyone is in the Discord, they know I raged out last night. I had just a horrible time playing last night's challenge. The metagame was 7 Dredge players, 7 Initiative players, 6 Blue-Black Lurrus players, 5 Doomsday players, and a bunch of 1-ofs. And it was gotta be one of the worst challenges I've ever played. And so far, it is not looking good for me. This hand is just not keepable, so I have to mulligan. This is definitely my best hand by a lot, but my opponent kept a 7-card Dredge hand, so I am skeptical of my chances. I think I would rather just drop the Monolith and have a secondary plan in case my Ancestral gets countered. I am going to fire, even though my opponent is a Force of Negation deck, I am going to just fire off this Ancestral right now on my turn because I think that gives me the highest chance of winning the game. It's going to be hard to fight through a Negation anyways, so my opponent has a Force of Will and a blue card and a Bazaar in their opening hand. It's not a good start for me. I'm just going to go buy the Lurrus. Don't know if that will actually have any impact on this game. Probably not, but I think it's better than cycling, because if I hit a blue land, then I can just cast Lorien Revealed. I like that Dredge exists in the format. I think Dredge is a good thing to have in Vintage, a very unique thing, and a reason to give people to play a very offbeat style of Magic. But if Dredge is 20% of a metagame, I think that's a failure in format management. Dredge should not be so good that 20% people are registering it. So my opponent got to keep Bazaar, Force blue card, Grief black card, and then 2 Dredgers. 7-card Dredge hands are very hard to beat for most decks in the format. My opponent has chosen to take Lurrus instead of Lorien Revealed. I would consider that to be a mistake. But they don't know. I mean, they've seen Mana Crypt and Ruby, so they should know I'm a combo-oriented deck. I think taking Lurrus here is just a complete mistake. Don't know if that'll matter for the course of the game, though. We'll see what happens. Merchant Scroll. Don't have an Ancestral, but I can go Merchant for a PO, and then Lorien for a land. And then if I don't get second Griefed, I can theoretically PO on the next turn, which is a little bit weaker than resolving a Lorien. But I do have a Meticulous Archive I can get with this Lorien Revealed, so I don't think Dig Through Time makes sense. Yeah, I'm just going to get a PO here, and then I'm going to Island Cycle for a Meticulous Archive. I could Island Cycle for a black land, which will let me have a Demonic Tutor as a possible out, but I think a Meticulous Archive is likely going to help me more. Looking basically to try to find another Moxen to make this PO really strong. Another Lorien Revealed. So the problem with a Lorien Revealed is I don't think I have another turn. And Lorien Revealed is always going to take up my entire turn no matter what. And I think, based on my experience with Bazaar, having 2 Stinkweed Imps, I don't think this Lorien Revealed is fast enough. So I'm going to bin the Lorien Revealed from the yard and then pass. My opponent has a Noxious Revival of the Grief to take the Paradoxical outcome. Cool. All right. So I'll have to top deck some action here. It does mean they didn't Dredge for turn, so that's definitely some speed off of their turn here. Wait, what's going on? They picked up the Grief, but then they activated Bazaar? I feel like my opponent made a mistake here. Because this is going up to 3, down to 1, and they're not going to be able to use their Grief. So they basically wasted their draw step and their Noxious Revival, and they ended up with nothing in the end. So that looks like a mistake to me. So I'm not like trying to harp on my opponent. I'm just trying to identify for chat what's going on. But I would say my opponent has had 2 choices in this game, the Grief and the Noxious Revival usage, and I think both of them were mistakes. Don't know. Like I said, Dredge is so strong, and I'm so anemic right now after getting both of my best cards taken that it might not matter at all. But yeah, I would say 2 mistakes so far. All right, so they kept 1 card. They kept the Grief. So I don't know why. I guess it doesn't do anything, but they hit 1 Icarid, 1 Narcomoeba, past the turn. So now I get to PO no matter what, and I know it's resolving. Took a loss, crypt flip, but did not draw a piece of artifact mana. So I'm just inspirationing here. I guess it's more like 1 mana, draw 2. There's another PO. Yeah, but like griefing next turn is like bad, right? Like griefing next turn is not going to help them. I don't know. I have a Vexing Wobble. Definitely going to go search up the black source here and then cast another PO. I think getting the extra card is better than saving a blue mana. I don't think I'm dying on the next turn, so. Let's see. Can I afford to not play the Mana Crypt is a question. Let's see. I don't care about their card. I guess I'll just look at my card and see if it's a fetch land. Ugh. So the question is, do I want to play this Mana Crypt out? Yeah, I think the answer is yes. Might use this. I'm not going to use the Vexing Bubble to draw now because I know I'm drawing a fetch land, but I might use this Vexing Bubble to draw on my opponent's end step here. All right, so my opponent should just activate Bazaar, dredge as much as they possibly can, and hope it's enough. That's the position they put themselves in here. Yes, hi, Laura. I see you. So if I win this game, it's absolutely because my opponent gifted it to me. So we'll see what happens. How's it going? Not great. I have not been having a lot of fun. Like I've actually been putting together some really good videos, which is kind of interesting. I think my videos in the last 4 or 5 videos have been extremely good, but I am not enjoying playing Vintage at the moment. So if it wasn't Vintage season, I would probably take a break because of burnout, but yeah, but I don't want to take a break because it's the one season a year where I get to play the showcase and the RCQs and try to qualify for the Pro Tour and Worlds by playing Vintage. So it's like pretty much I'm not going to, even if I would want to. It's just unfortunate timing. If season 2 was Vintage season, then I would probably take a nice at least a month break. But all right, so my opponent has put me to 9 here. They have 2 creeping chills left in their deck. I'm going to draw with this Vexing Bauble because I need to find action. And I'm not worried about a spell or anything here. Saga is not action, so I might just lose here if I don't draw action on this draw. A Yogwill is really good. PO, Snapcaster. Time Vault's okay. I just drew 3 lands and died. So my opponent's mistakes don't matter, and I lose. Cool. Yeah, that's magic. Cool. All right. I'm gonna bring in 4. Yeah, sorry. I'm trying. I don't want to be such a downer that it makes for terrible content, but it's really hard sometimes when games are like that, and I just nothing I do matters. And that's kind of basically every game versus Dredge. There are very few games versus Dredge that don't end up like that, which is why I really dislike when Dredge is more than 5% of the metagame. Even if it shouldn't be 5% of the metagame right now, like it's not putting up good enough win rate numbers. It's actually putting below 50% win rate numbers. It's just people register Dredge. All right, Dress Down is really bad. I don't really like Balance very much. I don't need Portable Hole and Swords because I'm bringing in Seal of Cleansing as my mainstay removal for Hollow One. The reason is because Seal of Cleansing hits Chalice of the Void and Hollow One. Don't really think 4th Airling is particularly good in this matchup, but maybe keeping a Swords is better than keeping a 4th. I feel like that's possible here. I didn't talk about the Grim Monolith, but it's basically just additional artifacts to make sure your PO is better. 4th is basically a storm spell. Think of it as a tendrils that isn't always bad. Like when you draw it in the mid game. I guess Mental Misstep is still bad too. Maybe I'll just play 2 swords then. I do have a lot of clear graveyard spells, and when you have a lot of clear graveyard spells, your swords get better because the things you lose to when you resolve a cleared graveyard spell is you lose to hollow ones. So it's like not unreasonable. Also, like Snapcaster Mage makes them better as well. Probably fine to keep it like this. So, so this hand contains no anti-dredge cards, but is one of the more powerful looking, just raw combo hands I can keep. So I'm probably gonna keep it. This is the kind of hand I was looking to mulligan into on game 1, but I just didn't find it. Do I think Probe is worth it versus Dredge? No, I don't particularly find Probe to be very good. It does help versus like Mindbreak Trap, but I don't know. It's like not bad. It's still blue card. My opponent kept another 7-card Dredge hand, so now against my opponent in the last 5 games I played versus them, they've kept 7-card Dredge hands. So this hand has a Force of Will, but no blue card. So my opponent has no interaction right now, but will probably have interaction by the end of next turn. The problem is I don't have any good cards to cast. So that's nice for you. I think I'm going to go for a nice 0-1 start. The good news is I can play my Mana Crypt, sorry, my Mana Vault, and still cast Merchant Scroll this turn. Is this a point where a Paradox Outcome is better than an Ancestral? I think the answer is yes, because I have so much mana. But I guess the answer is no, because if they get a force and they force my PO, I can't really snap a PO because I would probably be using the mana vault. So it's probably better still to have an ancestral, but the ancestral does run into things like mental misstep. So yeah, I mean that's just variance, right? It's not like my deck has a lot of lands in it. It's 14 lands. Just happens. All right, Bazaar. It's just Magic is an amazing game, right? And Vintage is a high variance format, and you have to accept that when you play Vintage. But when I play a game of Vintage and I make all forced decisions, right? I don't know if I had any choices in game one really. Maybe like keeping a Lorien revealed. For the most part, it was like forced decisions, and then my opponent has 3 decisions in their game. That, well, I guess like they don't have any decisions on mulliganing because they kept their 7. And they barely have decision mulliganing anyways because of Bazaar. It's mostly the cards you put back when you do that, when you mulligan. So like I played maybe 1 decision. My opponent had 3 decisions. My opponent made 2 or 3 wrong decisions. I made no choices basically in the game, and I lost. Whereas if I like go and play a match of TFT in one single turn, I'm making 100 decisions, and it's like almost always my fault when I lose. So like it's kind of hard for me to recently to justify playing matches of Magic. That Flusterstorm is an extremely good draw. And like I know that Magic and Vintage are high variance, low decision formats. Like I played this format for 7 years. I'm aware of that, and I don't think it's like an inherently bad thing. But just recently, I've been more interested in playing games where I make more choices. So yeah, I mean, like Vintage is a high variance format, but the best players are still winning 60% of their games, right? But then when you think about it, 60% of games, like you're winning slightly over half your games if you're really good, is kind of, it's weird because I would say it's a huge plus side for most people, right? Like the fact that I won a Mox invite playing against Reed Duke, where Reed Duke is a much, much better player than I am. Like the fact that Magic has so much variance meant that I could beat Reed Duke. You know, it's not chess, whereas if I'm playing against Magnus Carlsen in chess, I'm going to win 0 games out of 100. But it does like increase burnout and stuff like that. So just things to think about. I'm not like telling people not to enjoy Vintage. I'm not saying that Vintage is bad. I'm just saying there's, there's pros and cons to everything you choose to do. I am going to resolve this. They pitched their Force of Will for this, and then this, and those are the cards that went in the yard. And I'm not saying TFT is a perfect game. TFT also has an extremely high level of variance. But the fact that you make 100 choices and I can make like 70 choices wrong means that like there's a lot of things I can do that I'm not currently doing to make myself better, right? All right, so I didn't draw any POs. I have Snaps Ancestral next turn. I have the ability to Brainstorm and then cycle away with Lorien revealed. I don't know if this game is going to go so long that a Saga here makes sense. So this is like a very important choice here. I think most of my other choices this game were pretty straightforward, besides maybe like casting Ancestral on my turn. But this choice is very hard. Like, what are you doing with your land drop here? Maybe most people don't think of this as a hard choice, but I think this is like an extremely interesting choice and an extremely vintage choice. I could easily win or lose this game based on whether I choose to play Urza Saga or Misty Rainforest here, which is crazy. It's just kind of about like knowing how this game is going to go. My opponent put 2 Dredgers and an Icarid in the yard, which means I don't actually have that much time. And then you have to think about what is this Brainstorm drawing into, and the fact that I know my spell is likely to resolve. My opponent could theoretically still have drawn a Mindbreak Trap, but I think because I have access to like double Soul Guide Lantern, Needle, Tormod's Crypt, it makes a lot of sense here to just simply, and because I have Lorien revealed to cycle away my cards with Brainstorm, it makes sense to just fetch out a Tundra and then cast Brainstorm. So I didn't hit Dredge Hate, but I did technically hit a blue source. The problem is I don't have double blue for any of my spells. So I think my answer here is just going to simply be... And I don't think we need a force, because my opponent should never draw another card this game. They should just dredge. Well, it's likely instead of digging for hate, we're just digging to win the game, because my opponent is just trying to clock us from this spot. Trying to figure out if there's any like upside to doing any other things this turn. If I use my Manifold to play my Manifold Key, cycle my thing, and untap, I still can't like buy Lurrus profitably, right? So I don't think it matters much. Yeah, maybe I could have theoretically bought Lurrus profitably or something here. I don't know. I just want to F6 mostly. Right. Assuming my opponent makes what I think are straightforward decisions here of just doing dredging for the rest of the game, I just am goldfishing myself to try to win the game. I would say that I'm likely 90% to win this game. It's very hard to imagine that between snap and dig, I don't find a way to win this game on the next turn, but we'll see what happens. Yeah, so my opponent, Dredge. Did they not dredge the second time? They drew with 2 with Bizarre. They dredged a Thug. I'm kind of confused. I'm trying to read the log, and the log is very hard to read. Maybe their last card was a Force of Vigor, and they dredged. They dredge a shell though. They had a shell in their hand already. Maybe. I guess my opponent could theoretically have last card Vigor here. In which case, don't know if Vigor matters. I mean, that draw pretty much seals it, I would think. Pretty sure I'm just casting a Dig Through Time. And leaving Ancestral. I could leave Merchant Scroll, but it costs too much blue mana to go like Merchant Scroll for PO. We'll have Snapcaster Mage. Obviously, Time Vault is the quickest and easiest way to win this game, but PO is also good. I did not hit those cards, but I did hit double hate pieces. So now I have a Containment Priest with Force Backup and a Soul Guide Lantern, which I can't imagine can lose from here, especially with Lurrus following that up. So switching game plans a little bit. I actually, yeah, it's fine. I'm just going to play this pretty slowly. I'm going to play Soul Guide, eating an Icarid. Maybe I'm supposed to eat a Dredger, but they don't know about my Containment Priest, so it's a little hard. Buying a Lurrus. So now I have Lurrus Soul Guide loops and untapping this Mana Vault. And I have Force Backup Containment Priest. I guess I should have probably... I mean, I have a Soul Guide Lantern. I probably should have just cast this on my turn. It was incorrect play by me. Because now they can activate. But if they activate, I just Soul Guide Lantern them. So it's like, what is their plan, really? Yeah, that works. I should probably have just played this Containment Priest on my turn. Because this means they can, like, I don't know, activate Bizarre, Natural Draw, try to find Force Backup, force this. But again, I have Force Backup, so, and I have rotating swords. Sorry, not rotating. Looping swords and looping lanterns and priests with Lurrus. So, yeah. I mean, the Dig Through Time won the game. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay. Do I want to make any changes? Not particularly. All right, so we were able to beat a Dredge 7 on the draw. Now the question is, can we win a game 7 Dredge against a Dredge 7 on the play? We were able to win on the play. Can we win on the draw? So there is also something to be said about my opponent kept a 7-card hand last game, right? But the 7-card hand did not include a blue card for their force. So like That is an active downside of the mulliganing heuristics of Bazaar. Of course, my opponent has powdered and kept another 7-card hand. So this is the 6th 7-card hand they kept versus me in the last 2 days. This hand again contains no artifact, no Dredge hate. So I think this hand is like probably bad. Especially like if I get griefed, I have no realistic follow-up. If I was on the play, I would keep this hand. But on the draw, this is probably a mulligan. The problem is PO mulligans so poorly. And it's not like I'm mulliganing to a ley line on turn 0 here. I'm going to try keeping this hand, but I'm not really convinced it's correct. It's really hard to mulligan this hand, though. But again, my opponent did keep 7, so... They kept 7 and then did not activate the Bazaar. Okay. I wonder how much action they have in their hand. Let's take a peek. They have Force of Will, Force of Negation, Amalgam, Mindbreak Trap. Okay. So let's not play into Mindbreak Trap. I'm going to play a Fetch Land and a Mana Crypt. So my opponent's 7-card hand was blue card Force, Mindbreak Trap, Bazaar. Okay. It seems still feel like this is beatable because my opponent is not currently putting any pressure on the board. And it's not like they have squeeze. So here they have a very easy draw 2, discard with Serum Powder, and they're not going to lose any of their cards. I'm going to upkeep Ancestral and get rid of this Force of Will, though. So they were able to draw a Dredger and an Icarid, which is basically the best card you could have drawn here, besides theoretically drawing a better Dredger. All right, so now I'm going to wait till after they do a Dredging in response to this Icarid. Okay, so let's see what happens here. They dredge 3 with the Shambling Shell. And they hit a Dredge 5 and a Narcomoeba. And then their Dredge 5 did not hit another Dredger, but they'll be able to discard 3 Dredgers. And they also hit a Grief, so they'll be able to bring back an Icarid this turn. They chose to get rid of Prized Amalgam, so that will come back with the Icarid and the Narcomoeba. It does mean that they no longer have this Prized Amalgam, leaving them with just Force of Will, Force of Negation, and 2 blue cards in hand. I mean, Ancestral is a lot worse than keeping a Bazaar 7, though, so... Mental Misstep is gone. But my opponent's still going to be able to force on their turn, force on my turn. And they are putting together a pretty strong clock. Don't know. I think I'm going to have to draw pretty well to get out of this one. Especially if I take a Mana Crypt flip loss. I would say that my opponent's activation into double Dredge was pretty high tier draws. This is going to be another Dredge 5 for turn. And this one hit a second Prized Amalgam and a second Icarid. So they'll have another additional 6 power. So I'm likely dead on the next turn now. It's actually additional 9 power. So I am 100% dead on the next turn too. So I'm getting turn 3'd unless I clear the yard. And even if I clear the yard, they're going to have 7 power in play. So yeah, this went like... This is about as bad as variance can go for me from this spot because my opponent had no Dredgers, no threats, and only counter magic. And then they played this turn, and they now have a turn 3 kill. All right, so let's see what we can do. We're going to get our opponent's Force of Will out of our hand with this Ancestral. Then we'll lead on Time Walk likely so that we can try to resolve our Merchant Scroll. But the problem is I have to win the game on the next turn, or else I lose from just the threats that they currently have, which is not good because they have another counterspell. I won the flip, though. I did draw a Soul Guide Lantern. Okay, so now that this Time Walk is heavy bait, let's see what happens. It resolves. I am currently not having very much fun, but I'm doing my best to at least be informative and educational. All right. I'm gonna play this merchant scroll, see if I can get the negation off the merchant scroll. I really need to get rid of this negation. I have not had any lag. It's possible that lag is not server side this time and possibly due to memory leaks. So I would make movements to try to clear out your, open windows and make Magic Online run as smoothly as possible. I have a very nice new machine, so that could be part of it. Yeah. So I can take a force off of this or a flusterstorm off of this to make sure my soul guide resolves. But my soul guide has to immediately clear the yard, and they're still gonna have 4 power. Is that enough? It feels like it's enough. Well, I'm not saying you need a high-end gaming machine. They should fix the problem if that is the problem. But like, I'm getting like pretty tilted from reading Twitter posts, but like you can do things to if the problem is not server related, you can actually do a lot of things to make your Magic Online run smoother. You can turn off animations, you can get rid of old deck lists, you can shred old cards. Like there's a lot of things you can do. You can do a clean install, clear out your one cache. Like these are things people have available to them. Does it make more sense to get Force here, or does it make it more sense to get Flusterstorm here? I guess it makes more sense to get Flusterstorm here. Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying I have all the answers, but I am still dead in 2 attacks, which is not ideal. Lost a flip. But if I start going Lurrus looping lanterns, is that enough? Might be. All right. Soul Guide Lantern. Also, they still have a Bazaar after all of this. What's the 3rd card in their hand? Oh, a Dredger. Wait, this just resolves? Because they know I have Flusterstorm? Okay. So they only have 1 Dredger left in their yard. If they Icarid return Icarid, it's still a problem though, so I still have to clear the yard. It's kind of bad for me. I guess I can take one of the Icarids and see if they pass the priority back to me. Not sure. I'm gonna buy Lurrus and have a Meticulous Archive. Shouldn't need to Flusterstorm anything now that my spell is resolved. But I have to clear the yard no matter what, right? And then I guess I could get hit by... Oh, they do have a Dredger. So I'm pretty sure I had to hit the Dredger. Because if I activate on their turn in response to the Icarid, they can Dredge and try to hit a Creeping Chill. Pretty sure I just have to hit this. Don't know if I have to hit that if I had hit the Dredger instead. I still can't let a thing come back to me. But I am taking 7 damage here. Oh, I guess this fetch land is really bad then. Okay, I should not have played this fetch land because if I lose my mana crypt flipped, I can't use this fetch land. So that was a mistake. Yeah, I definitely made some crucial errors in this one because I have this mana crypt flip. They still have the negation. Yeah, but like my Lurrus isn't actually beating this board, right? Unless I draw a swords or something. Yeah, I made a mistake here. Lost a land drop. I have to win all my flips anyways, so. Because I don't think Lurrus on this board is... That's Snapcaster, Time Walk. I can die to this mana crypt flip, though. So if I play a Lurrus, I can't actually play a Lantern and a Snapcaster to survive. I guess I just die to the Narcomoeba anyways, right? So I need to instead go Snap Walk and hope I don't die to my crypt flip. And then try to go from there. I could just go Snap Ancestral. Does that put me in a better chance of winning the game? I can also turn one of these manas into another blue mana. I guess I should have done that ahead of time. I guess I still can. They have Mindbreak Trap and Negation, yeah. They could have technically have both up now. But I don't know. I think I have to win all my crypt flips here. Oh, I already used my land drop. Okay, well, I just threw the whole game away. Okay. I don't know. I'm like clearly very not into it. Might have to end the stream. We'll see. So yeah, I had to just go time walk with Fluster, win my crypt flip, then I draw a bauble. I mean, I'm just dead is the problem. No, I have PO to get rid of my thing, but I don't have PO either. It's just very hard to beat a Dredge 7 where they keep any Dredge 7. I didn't get there this game, but I definitely had things I could have optimized. This is because I played the wrong land, right? If I had not played this fetch land, then I could have played my land. I would have had another land in play and then been able to do this. So, yeah, that was just a mistake. I'd still lose, obviously, but... Oh, well. Yeah. All right, so round 2 Vintage Challenge. I played against this player last night. They were on Dredge. They did like my Mono Blue Belcher brew, so maybe they're playing Mono Blue Belcher tonight. We'll have to see. Tron, if you play Tron in Modern, then you should probably try to play a workshop-based deck. There are some interesting like CRK workshop decks that are totally cool to check out. So if you go to like CRK's tournament finishes, this deck is a mud, big mana deck. This deck is not a super easy deck to play, I would say. There's like a lot of moving pieces, but this is kind of an interesting, like theoretically, if Sphere Shops was a good deck, I would recommend you Sphere Shops. That's not Sphere Shops. Like this one where you're playing Sphere Resistance. If this deck was a strong in the metagame, I would say like play a Sphere Shop deck. But is Merfolk a deck in Vintage? Not really, but it's totally playable. It's a blue tempo deck that has Wasteland and Force and Ancestral. It's totally playable. So unfortunately against Dredge, my hand has no combo-oriented game plan, and against Mono Blue Belcher, my hand has no counter magic, so I just have to mulligan this. Okay, this hand has combo plans and has counter magic plans. So I'm keeping this hand. So negation is basically terrible if my opponent is on Dredge, but if my opponent is on Mono Blue Belcher, negation is great. And I'm never going to have a mana to Flusterstorm anyways. So I'm just going to take away the Flusterstorm, and then I'll go for a turn 1 Demonic Tutor? Question mark? Don't know. Not 100% sure what my best choice is here. I do want to see if my opponent maybe like Serum Powders or something to give me a better direction. I could, of course, like jam a PO on my opponent's upkeep or something. They kept a 6, and I don't know what they're playing still. Which makes things hard. I think the answer is Demonic Tutor for a blue action spell, namely Ancestral Recall. That way I have choices on what I want to use for negation, and then if I get griefed, I have 2 pieces of action. So that's my plan. I'm going to play the Demonic second, so playing around Mindbreak Trap. But that being said, I might still want to play the Mana Crypt out anyways, because if my Mana Crypt gets... playing around Mindbreak Trap in game 1 is not exactly something I'm interested in doing, but... I will say my opponent looked like they were lagging a ton last night, so my opponent will probably be few and far between on actions. That, or they're playing multiple matches of Magic at the same time. Okay, they're actually playing multiple matches of Magic at the same time, so... in the end, it's the same thing. They'll be few and far between their actions, but for a different reason. Oh yeah, for sure. I think you're right, Nami. I like Merfolk. When you look at Merfolk, it has all the structural pieces to be a good vintage deck. You are theoretically putting a clock on your opponent. You are playing blue cards and Force of Will. You're playing Ancestral Time Walk, Force of Will. You have a very good Force of Will blue count. You're playing Wasteland, which is extremely powerful. The problem is like your creatures are a little underpowered compared to what the rest of the format is doing, but you're checking all the boxes. So now if my opponent kept a 6-card Bizarre hand where they force my Demonic Tutor and then grief my PO, I will just lose again. Okay, so they kept a 6-card Bizarre hand, it seems. Now I'm at the point where I do want to play out this Mana Crypt because I don't want it to get griefed and then my PO be stranded. At least this way, if they were to grief my PO, I can draw another PO. Well, of course, most decks are better when you draw Black Lotus. Okay, so 2 rounds in a row of Dredge players I played against last night on Dredge. That is not a good sign. All right, my opponent had a Force, a blue card, a hollow one for free, and then they do have double Dredger. Let's see when we get priority what we draw. If we draw nothing, we're probably forced into just a PO for 2 and see how it goes. We are looking, of course, to try to combo. We're game 1. We have no lanterns and stuff in the main. You could always theoretically play like a lantern instead of a Grim Monolith, but I kind of wanted to make my POs better in a more powerful way than playing like a Soul Guide Lantern. But certainly an option. All right, I drew a land. I'm going to jam a PO and see how it gets us. How it gets us? Yeah, see what it gets us. If my opponent has an additional Force blue card, I just lose. Which has kind of just been my whole sequence recently. I, of course, can play this on my opponent's turn to play around negation, but I think it doesn't matter, man. Nothing I do matters, man. All right, so my opponent had Force blue card, hollow one, double Dredger on their 6-card to keep. I swear I make the Dredge deck look really good on my streams. It's crazy. It's just like I have very little choices. I make my choices, and then my opponent reveals that they have double free interaction, turn 3 kill every game. I don't know. All right, so we hit Creeping Chill, and then we hit Amalgam. No Icarids this time, so that's good. So I'll go to 13, and then I'll go to 9, and I still have a Mana Crypt in play. I have a Meticulous Archive I can get off of this Misty. They have a Dredge 5 for their... I'm probably dead on the next turn here. Another turn 3 with double interaction. Oh, now I'm definitely dead on the next turn. My opponent hit a Creeping Chill, which is putting me to 10 and then 6. A Narcomoeba, which is bringing back a Prized Amalgam for an additional 4 power. So yeah, I need to win the game on this next turn here. Dredge seems to pretty consistently win the game on turn 3 in these current builds. I'm going to get that Meticulous Archive and see what my top card is. It's a Mana Vault. It's not going to do it. All right, see what my top card is next underneath that. I want to flip. Keep. Okay. I die. 100% dead. If I were to buy and play Lurrus, I don't have the mana, so I would die. And it would die anyways. Okay, cool. Yep. So my opponent countered my 2 action spells and then killed me on turn 3. Let's try again. Gonna bring in those 4 pieces of graveyard, or 5 pieces of graveyard. I found 5 pieces of graveyard again. 5 pieces of graveyard hate, an additional seal, and possibly a swords. And then I'm going to take out fourth, misstep, probe, portable hole, balance, dress down, negation. I usually take out island as well. So I'll keep the probe, I guess. All right, well, go try this. I don't know. I don't feel like my deck has a bad dredge matchup, but I just get completely run over every single time. So maybe I'm wrong. Like I should have outs for game 1 combos, and then game 2 I still have all the same combos, but also have an additional 5 pieces of hate that can all be played on turn 1 in my deck. Really, Canadian Priest is obviously the one that's less often, but still pretty often. My deck is pretty weak to things like Grief, though. It's very heavily card quantity dependent. So it's there are definitely places where I can falter, but it's pretty hard for most decks in the format to beat turn 1 double force hollow 1 turn 3 kill is very strong. Like even if you had a wasteland per se, you still have to deal with hollow 1 and them taking your best 2 cards with force. All right, on the play. Yeah, it definitely had a better game 1 when you had Tinker. Tinker was a free oops I win spell, that's for sure. So this lets me. I mean, I have to keep this. Maybe I don't have to keep this because this only makes me. Ugh. I think I have to mulligan this actually. This is like a very, very good hand against any normal Magic the Gathering deck, but unfortunately my opponent is not a normal Magic the Gathering deck. It's Dredge. Yeah, we can talk about the deck after the game because I'm gonna lose here and then I'm gonna O2 drop. So this hand has Bobble, but I can't. I mean, yeah, I guess it has Bobble, hopefully protecting a Soul Guide turn 2. Yeah, I mean, this is not a great hand, but I'm just going to play Tundra and hope this Bobble resolves. My opponent loves F6ing with Dredge. All right, so my opponent can't resolve any spells in this entire game. All of their spells are free. So I would assume with a seal and a lantern and the ability to get a Lurrus going that this should be enough, but we'll see. They have to power through a lantern on hitting their graveyard and a seal hitting their hollow ones. This is a really nice example of why I love Lantern, because Lantern can take their Ichord and force them to dredge through with thugs. Whereas if I were to play like Tormod's Crypt or Nihil Spellbomb here, it doesn't do double duty. I'm definitely gonna bobble. Oh, I can't bobble because I'd have to bobble myself. But I'm never letting this bobble go anyways, so it's just putting a card in my yard. It's fine. But yeah, obviously I can't bobble myself there. I'm gonna take the Ichord, so they're forced to do dredging things. I could definitely hold this bubble in my hand for Brainstorm though. So they are dredging. They have hit a Narc Amoeba. Yeah, they have a Prized Amalgam, so I guess I have to crack a Lantern off this because I don't want to deal with Narc Amoeba plus Prized Amalgam here. So that's a hit here. So I won't have another Lantern until I get a Lurrus in play, which could take a little while. See if that works. So yeah, I got a Meticulous Archive here. Basically looking for I mean, Meticulous Archive here is great because I can get rid of more zeros that are on the top of my library. Meticulous Archive is just extremely good in my deck. Like that card is dead. We get rid of that card. I think that Meticulous Archive is so strong. Every blue vintage deck should be playing 1 Surveil land is the conclusion I've come to. And some decks might be supposed to be playing 2. Tormod's Crypt. That would be good if I were to get rid of my Bobble. I can't imagine getting rid of my bauble yet, though, so we'll see. Upkeep Bazaar. They need to get some dredgers going here. 3 dredgers. Dredge, natural dredge. Hit nothing. Well, I mean, they hit a bunch of dredgers, but they didn't hit anything that comes back. See what we draw for this turn here. Land is good. Ugh. So the problem is, I can't buy Lurrus and play Lurrus, and I can't play any of my 0 drops because of my bauble is hurting me. This is definitely the downside of bauble. But if I crack my bauble, everything can get cast again. They have 3 vigors in their yard, 2 negations. If I hit a land drop here, it's a very easy buy and play Lurrus. Then next turn I can stop Soul Guide Lantern, but I didn't hit a land drop. I did cut a land drop for what it's worth. I'm just trying to figure out what point do I have to crack this bauble to survive. They are probably F6. That is a fair point. But I don't think I should play to that. That is true. I don't think this is the turn I'm supposed to crack bauble if I do. But they are going to dredge for 6, 11, 17. So if they were to hit any amalgams, it's like super bad for me. So I think just because of my opponent's sheer quality of their cards in their yard, I just have to. I am going to crack a bauble and immediately play a crypto and see if it resolves. Okay, I got the crypt through. GG easy. Still can't buy a Lurrus this turn though. So I guess we're just playing out this Seal of Cleansing. I guess I could hold up Force for like a Vigor or something. I don't know if that's actually good though. But they're not going to use a Seal of Cleansing unless they have hollow ones that they were holding. I guess if they have hollow ones they were holding. They only have 1 Vigor left. I'm pretty sure I would rather just play a Seal of Cleansing. Okay. Yeah, my opponent was definitely F6 and not looking. So I think we snuck that one by him. I truly believe that if you're trying to win the best EV playing Magic, you should not be double queuing. I really stand by that. You should not be double queuing if you're trying to win. I think it hampers so much that it's not worth the additional points of playing 2 tournaments at the same time. This is simply 1 Archamoeba, but I have to hit them next turn because of Icarids anyways, so... Well, that's not true, because I need this mana from Opal to play Lurrus, so I actually have to let this Narcomoeba go, because I need to keep this Metalcraft, so... I will still have to hit them next turn, but I'll just have to beat the one Narcomoeba. Okay, so that's a hollow one, easily answerable by Seal. That's a second hollow one. That's all 4 hollow ones. Still can loop a Seal if I can resolve Lurrus. So actually, drawing a blue card is quite good here so that I can resolve Lurrus. Because if my Lurrus gets countered, it's actually quite bad for me. That's a really good draw. Okay, so I will buy Lurrus. Play Lurrus. And then do they have a Force? Probably. I would assume so. After they've done a lot of natural drawing. No. Okay. Well, in that case, it's a very easy clear the yard. Replay Tormod's Crypt? Or I could just Mishra's Bauble. There shouldn't be anything. Like, they can activate and then dredge 6. Am I worried about that? No, yeah, I don't think I need a card. I have Lurrus already and Force. I don't think I need a card, so I'm just going to play the Tormod Script again. And I have Seal of Cleansing Loop. This also makes it so I don't have to get... What this does is it makes it so if I don't have to play a Tormod Script again next turn, right? Like if I play it this turn, it means I can theoretically replay Seal of Cleansing as well. So there's a lot... And then they've also they still have 2 Bazaars in their deck. So there's also some upside of like playing around another Bazaar. So I think this is correct. Hit a Creeping Chill. Okay, it's not too bad for me. There's this third Bazaar. I think this game is won. This is definitely the power of Lurrus. I don't think that the average game against Dredge, Lurrus comes up, but it definitely comes up in some games against Dredge. I did not expect to get griefed at this point, but I'm going to let them choose, because if they take my Merchant Scroll, it means I can still draw blue and for protection. I don't know if it matters. They have 16 cards left in their deck, and they don't have a very convincing yard at the moment, and I'm currently wiping their board out every turn. So yeah, okay, I'll just hit this. So if I draw a blue card here, I mean, even if they had like a Vigor, it doesn't do anything. They could have a Sickening Shoal, theoretically. So I only have 3 mana. So I like the idea of Vexing Bauble, Containment Priest. I am not playing with my food. I am literally just playing the game out. They are the ones not conceding. Like, they should just concede. Because I have Soul Guide Lantern as my graveyard loop spell, and I have a Containment Priest, so I don't really need 0. Yeah, like, I'm not playing with my food. I can't make them press concede. All right, so can we beat them with keeping 7 on the draw? That's the new question. Not the new question. It's the same question we've been asking all day so far. I still like my choices here. Submit. Jeez. There are just no games of Dredge where it's like, I shouldn't say no games. There are just very few games of Dredge where it's like back and forth and entertaining. I think the most entertaining match I've ever seen for Dredge versus a deck is the finals of the PTQ when I was playing Oath versus Winged Hussar on Dredge. I highly recommend that match. That match is extremely back and forth and very interesting. Obviously, we both were running pretty hot, but I was running a little bit hotter. But for the most part, it's a blowout one way or the other, which is why you don't want to have too much Dredge in your format. That's what I'm trying to say. Pretty sure I have to keep this hand. I have the ability to rebuy Soul Guide. I mean, this hand is bad. This hand is not good. This is definitely like a bad Meticulous Archive hand. But if this was like a normal land, it's not like this hand is that much better. Because it's not like I would be able to Yogg-Will turn 2 after time walking Yogg-Will Lantern. I don't know if I'm allowed to keep this hand. They mulliganed. That's good for me. I'm just going to keep this hand. I don't know if that's correct, but I'm going to try it. I could see this being a mulligan, though. Especially like you have Yogg-Will and Snapcaster contending with each other. My opponent kept a 6-card hand, so they've kept 2 6s and a 7. Not bad. Icarid, Dredger, Negation. They pitch it a Negation, which either means they don't have a blue card or they already have blue card force. I think this Mox is a fantastic draw, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to cast a Time Walk and see what happens. Is the new Birthing Pod close to playable? I think it's close. Yeah, it's a blue card. I think people are slightly overrating it, but it is not. Oh, I did not need another black source. Sorry, I was talking. But the right source doesn't really matter either, so it's probably fine. So I got negated, pitching negation. So they had triple negation. This does mean that my Soul Guide did not get negated, though. So we'll just see how bad the damage is from my opponent's 1 Shambling Shell, 1 Icarid. They dredged, hit Narcomoeba and Golgari Grave Troll, and then they dredged and hit 2 more Narcomoebas and multiple Griefs. So I'm taking at least 3 here with 2 Narcomoebas coming into play, and my opponent is discarding the best Dredger in the game. So for a Dredge 3, pretty good. And then they hit another Narcomoeba and a Prized Amalgam. So that means the Prized Amalgam is coming into play. So they have 6 free power and another Icarid. Yeah, I mean, from a Dredge 3. That's pretty good. It is quite good. Larian Academy. So unfortunately, my Soul Guide Lantern does not get to do double time here because they do have 2 Icarids. If they had 1 Icarid, then it'd be quite good, but I'm going to have to probably just wipe their yard with this Soul Guide. With that being the case, we probably want to use this turn to play the Meticulous Archive. But I could also, with a Resolve Soul Guide Lantern, buy my Lurrus this turn, which is probably better. That's all assuming that my Lantern resolves. We'll have to see what happens there. They're not F6. That's a bad sign. All right. I'm gonna try taking their. I just have to crack it. I'm gonna take their only Dredger, but I'm gonna have to crack it in response to the Icarids anyways. So, but I can go Academy and buy Lurrus this turn. This game is not lost, but it's definitely tough. I guess playing Academy by Lurrus is a lot worse if my opponent's last 2 cards are Vigor to go with their Golgari Grave Troll, which we know is in their hand. I mean, I can't even allow them to do this anyways, so yeah, again, this doesn't matter. I don't think this is an extremely hard game to win. I think this is a very winnable game. I mean, we have some swords and stuff. Like, it's not like it's... All right, so yeah, they have a new Icarid. They have a guard. So they had Mindbreak Trap, maybe. Not 100% sure. Their hand could have been Golgari Grave Troll Mindbreak Trap, which would make a lot of sense given the fact that they weren't F6 in my opponent's playstyle. So my opponent did have a Mindbreak Trap there. They drew into natural second Bazaar. Or they had second Bazaar. I mean, all right. So then they hit a Narcomoeba and a second Prized Amalgam. It feels, I don't know. It just feels like this is so unlucky, doesn't it? All right, it's fine. It's not a big deal. It's just another Creeping Chill and another 4 power. All right. Definitely am looking for like a Lotus, Ancestral, something good here. Mox Pearl is very good here. I'm not gonna hate on that one. All right, so I have a Lurrus, and I get to get another Lantern back, and then I have to block with my Lurrus. I do have the ability to Meticulous Archive right now, and I probably should. In case I hit like a... I guess Time Walk is already exiled. I don't know, I guess I could hit like a Containment Priest, and that doesn't really help. Force is really bad, though, so... It's an easy bin. Oh, I guess what I could have done is played a Fetch Land, and then I could have used a Snapcaster to block instead of using my Lurrus to block. That could have been a good reason to use my... It still cost me a life, though. And then I would die. Actually, I would actually die. I still have to use my Lurrus to block anyways. But I'm pretty sure... I'm pretty sure I still need to play a Lantern, so... Oh, I was supposed to hit the Icarid. God, Justin! I didn't see the Icarid at the top of the screen. Okay, so now I think I just lose then. I don't know. Like, obviously, I'm not playing well, and I'm not giving myself a chance to win. But like, holy hell, I threw this one. Yeah, I just don't think the snap chump is good here because I still have to use my Lurrus jump because they have 4, 7. Like, if I chump one here, I still take 7 and die, right? So I still have to use my Lurrus jump anyways. So I think holding the Snapcaster for like an Ancestral or something is much better. But I just threw the whole game because I just needed to use this Lantern on my Icarus so I could wait. I mean, maybe with 2 Bazaars, I'm not allowed to wait anyways. This could be theoretically possible. But I think my opponent's going to hit a Creeping Chill here and kill me now, so... it's probably not good either way. Like, I'm not saying I played these games perfect, because I did not. But like, I'm also not sure the things I did mattered very much. Yep, they hit a Creeping Chill in their top 5. They hit both Creeping Chills in their top 8, and so I died no matter what. Okay, cool. Yeah, I don't like it. Man. Because if they hit one Creeping Chill, I died and Archimedes in the air, right? So even if I had used my Soul Guide Lantern correctly, I would have hit the Icarid. They would have natural Dredge 6, hit a Creeping Chill. They hit all 3 Creeping Chills. Okay. I guess they used they helped the whole graveyard, so it's fine. Yeah, so even if I had actually targeted the Soul Guide Lantern correctly, my opponent just has to hit 1 chill in response to my Lantern. And then the Narcomoose kill me, so... Okay, yeah, like I said, I don't know. I really don't know. These don't feel like they are games that should be like super lost, but my opponent, like, I mean, they had what? They had 1 Dredge 3er and an Icarid, and then they dredged for like 15, and then I wiped their yard, and their Bazaar activation drew them a second Bazaar, or they either had the second Bazaar in their hand with the Gargantua, or it drew them the second Bazaar. There's no way they had it in their hand, right? Because this was the 3rd turn. So they probably just drew the second Bazaar. I don't know. I don't think my deck is bad against Dredge. I look at my deck and I don't think my deck is bad against Dredge. But like, I just get run over. I guess to be fair, my opponents in this set have kept what? 7, 7, 7, 7, 6, 6. Which is not good for me. But I don't know. How much can I expect my opponent to mulligan on average with Dredge? I actually don't know the answer to that question. It's some number, but I don't know what the number is. You're what? You're 50% to see a Bazaar in your opener, so... I don't know. Oh, yeah. Where do I see this deck going? I mean, I think this is what I think the deck should look like, or I wouldn't have played it today in my last testing matches. But I mean, I also don't know. Like, if I can't beat Dredge hands with my deck, then what am I doing? So what do I think to have a dominant Dredge matchup? Oh, Wastelands. Main deck Soul Guide Lanterns, Ley Lines. Like, I can make my deck better against Dredge. I just don't think it's worth making my deck better against Dredge. You know, I think my deck is already very, very good against Dredge. I would put myself as a heavy favorite. So like, I don't know. Priests are not better than these cards. Also, I have 5 cards in my combo deck that are good. Like, I would normally sleeve up half this many cards, but I was like, oh, you know, I'm facing a lot of Dredge recently. I'll put a couple extra cards in my sideboard. Like, I don't know. But like it's not like these matches were crazy blowouts. I won both game 2s. I won both game 2s. I feel like I'm going to win almost every game 2 on the play if that's where it takes. And then I think I can win some amount of game 1s by just having reasonable combo draws. And then, you know, spike a game here. And like, if I spike a game here and there from mulligans too, both of these are wins. But like, I didn't spike any games on mulligans. And the games turned out really poorly. I'm not sure. I don't know what the answer is. But like, I look at this deck and I don't think I need to change it for Dredge. And that's just like my opinion developed over time, playing lots of Vintage. Like, you beat Dredge 2 ways. There are 2 paths to beating Dredge that don't include just like copious amounts of hate. And one is like wastelanding Dredge, and one is comboing Dredge. And then both of those matchups both of those avenues get buffed post board by having Dredge hate. So it's just like I'm already, playing a combo oriented deck. Yeah, it's like a more controlling combo deck. Like it's not a Jewel deck. It's not a Doomsday deck. I need to have game against the rest of the format. But like I have Vault Keys and I have POs. Like there are times where you'll just like open with a PO for 3. Your opponent has to keep a hand that has a Bazaar. They just don't have a Force and they just lose on the spot. So it's not like my combo plan is not bad. And then like post board, my deck is just extremely good against Dredge. So I don't know. All right, so we're gonna play out round 3. The reason is because this is the last weekend before Showcase, and I'm trying to get as much practice in as possible. So even though I'm dead already, and dead inside, we're trying to play some more Magic. Opponent is usually a Jewel gamer. This hand does not currently have any counter Magic in it. Don't think this is gonna put up much of a fight against any kind of Jewel draw. So we put it back. Again, we have another situation where we have too many lands. Another 4 land hand. I'm on 14 lands in my deck. I don't know. If you play any less than 14 lands, you just are really weak to Wasteland, but I just think this hand is pretty bad too. If I had, instead of a land, if I had a Moxen, then it's a keep. You can get Probe into, or like Demonic Tutor into something and play from there, but I just can't imagine keeping this against a likely Jewel gamer. And this is my best hand by a lot. And it's actually keepable, so that's good. I'm going to keep this hand, and then I'm going to bottom the 2 large cost spells. I don't really want those here. And then probably interested in seeing my opponent's top card so that I can choose whether or not I want to Ancestral on my turn or my opponent's turn. This hand currently does not have counter magic for a Jewel or a Ring. All right, my opponent's top card is Time Walk. Well, that tells me absolutely nothing. Not absolutely nothing. They're not on Dredge, so that's nice. But it doesn't tell me if they're combo or control, which is the real question I was trying to answer. So we get a white land, and I'm going to cast this on my turn. They didn't reveal Lurrus. They're likely to be Jewel. I'd rather just cast this and see what we can get. Not going to overdraw, obviously, as I have 1 card in hand after this. My opponent is pausing, means they're considering maybe forcing it. If they have a Force in their hand and they're playing Jewel, I would consider keeping the Force in their hand so that they can resolve their Jewel or their Ring. Still have 1 more draw, looking for a Force on my opponent's upkeep. If Swords is bad, we can brainstorm it away, which is nice. All right, I have no counter magic, so if my opponent turn 1s me, they turn 1 me. They also have Time Walk, so there's a higher likelihood, but there's also not that many blue sources in my opponent's deck if they're on Jewel, so theoretically they can't cast this Time Walk on turn 1 unless they have blue land Mox. Okay, they have blue land Mox. So now the chances of me surviving this are greatly diminished. Typically, being able to look at the top card of your opponent of every turn, and then being able to use it to look at manipulate your draws with fetches is going to make Mishra's Bubble better. All right, so my opponent's resolving Tinker for Jewel, and then we'll just see if we die. I wish I could just play against Lurrus, man. I truly just wish I could play against Lurrus every round. Because then at least I get to like make choices. It's just people want to ban Lurrus in Vintage, and I'm like, what do you want to play against? Every other deck is absolutely miserable to play against. No, no one wants to play Legacy Blaine. That's clearly not true. I'm just like thinking if my opponent, like, they might do something with a creature to the point where I think it makes sense to actually keep the swords. The way we win this game through a Karn, which is not very likely, is probably like draw Snapcaster and attack. So what do they choose to get? Oh, a Lattice. My opponent has 3-ball and Lattice? Ugh. Okay. I've been invested in the arena of ideas. I don't know. I kept the right hand. I made the right plays, and I died. So I have Hercules, Negation, Consign, Needle for the One Ring, Seal of Cleansing, and then theoretically these endings could come in. They might not. Don't really need balance. Don't really need. I kind of like fourth in this matchup just because it's better at being the mid-rangey play. I like Island gone. I like Portable gone. Misstep gone. Probe gone. Flusterstorm's gone. I don't really like Flusterstorm in this matchup very much. I like Dress Down, I like Negation. I don't know if I really need this many prismatic endings. I'm I like to leave one swords in, but with seal, and it's like not as necessary. But one swords is fine. Just run like this. All right, I have a cat. I've got counter magic, seal. Yeah, this is a pretty good one. I don't think seal is like amazing versus my opponent's deck, but it's pretty reasonable. Looping it can take them off of all their mana, keep them away from POing and that kind of thing. Obviously, it's a straight up answer to Masticore, which is usually something that people care about. Obviously, doesn't hit the ring, but there are other things as well. So, Pearl, Tundra, probably Seal. All right, my opponent kept a 7-card hand. Workshop. Bobble is fine. I have a seal for it if I need to. Interesting. I also can just hard cast Negation from this point in the game, so gonna do that. Basically stall this game out a little bit till we can find a nice PO targets. Ancient Tomb, 5 mana. Is it a Masticore? Or is it a ring? It's a Metamorph. Assume as a Pearl, but I guess it could be theoretically a second Bauble. Sure. I don't really care. What's the plan, Stan? Second Bauble? Don't know if I'm particularly worried about that. Second Bauble, sure. Yeah. That underground sea. I don't know. I don't know what they expected exactly. I mean, from this spot, I don't particularly find Bobble to be super appealing, but see how the game plays out, I guess. There's a lot of concern with like me playing a Lurrus and getting it copied though. But I guess I have Seal Cleansing that can kill another Metamorph Lurrus, so maybe it's fine. Don't know. I don't really know what their game plan is exactly. Yogwell. Not a particularly good Yogwell spot. Again, I think holding up negation is mandatory, so I can't really buy Lurrus yet. Could theoretically end of turn here cycle a PO on my Seal of Cleansing though. I'm not sure we'll do that, but it's something I could choose to do. They didn't choose to draw any cards off their bauble, so it's interesting. Can't really pick up my Pearl, unfortunately. Oh, Academy seems quite good here. They have a lot more artifact mana than I do. This is a Wormcoil engine, so they actually went for the Wormcoil engine plan. That's crazy, man. I'm on white. Yeah, sure. You got a Wormcoil engine. That's so wild to me. I can't imagine ever choosing to do that, but did I show them I was on combo in game 1, or did I not show them that? Maybe they think I'm on control, but even if I'm on control, I showed them white, right? I only have one Swords in for what it's worth. I only kept one because I have Seal, but Stew. So the question becomes like, am I picking up the Seal? Yeah, for sure. Another PO is not a particularly good draw. Kind of just need to hit like non-Moxen mana. A fetch land's pretty good because it lets me Yogwell later as well. Like being able to do something like Seal, Yogwell, Seal, and land back, and then not use Seal again until the next turn so that I don't lose it. Seems like something I'd like to be able to do here. Don't know. Weird game. Like if my opponent hadn't copied their bauble, they would have had an additional oh, this is a good one because it makes mana, right? So unfortunately, I think now is the time for me to buy Lurrus. I'm not gonna be able to counter their spell no matter what. I need to pressure this game, right? True or false? Nah. But the thing is, like, I can't play Seal, so I'm just like, if I don't have a negation target, it's super bad for me. It's like really, really bad for me if I don't have a negation target and I make no play. But if I play a thing out and they play a One Ring, it's also extremely bad for me. So, like, what is the play from here? I don't know. I think I'm just unfortunately too far behind on mana because my opponent drew a Tolarian Academy, right? Do they have another ring too, or do they have another Wormcoil engine? They just have a jewel too? Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly why I want to have negation. But at this point, my opponent probably has Hardcast Force up anyways, so I guess I'm just losing. My bad. I don't know. I just don't know. I don't have no Rise in my deck, so I'm pretty much lost from here too as well. I feel really, really weird to lose this game because I feel like for most of this time when I'm in this spot, I'm like extreme winning. But yeah, I don't know. They clearly have force up with this Tolarian Academy. Tolarian Academy basically ruins every heuristic you have playing against Jewel. Nothing matters. I just can't play the game right. They have an ongoing thing. They clearly have force, so I would have to play Lurrus with force backup, which I can't because I don't have enough lands. I haven't hit any lands. I boarded out an island. Maybe I need to keep. I mean, like when I want lands, I don't have any lands. And then when I don't want lands, I have 4 lands. I don't know the solution here. I mean, they clearly have force of will, right? Like it's just a 100% force of will. But what am I supposed to do? Nothing I do matters though. So like, I don't even have. Like, if I had like a fetch land at any point in this game, at least my Yogg Wills would have been turned on, where I could play a Yogg Will and replay a Seal. Like, it's just bad. I mean, maybe I was supposed to seal their Bauble. That was the play I chose not to make, right? I could have sealed the Bauble. They would have cracked in response, and then they would have gotten a Pearl, and then I would have at least had negation up the whole game. And I maybe that was my mistake. My mistake was not shooting the Bauble. Feels weird that was the mistake, but it seems like it was. I would still be in like a hard spot for what it's worth. It's not like I was really advancing the game or like producing more Tolarian Academy mana. So it's not like I was really getting anywhere anyways. Whatever. All right, I'm done, chat. I don't want to play any more Magic. Clearly in a not a good spot. I don't know, like the cards that I took out here so that I could play better against Dredge were definitely cards that were good against Jewel. But with all the Dredge cards I brought in, I still lost 0-2 to Dredge, and then I still found a Jewel opponent to lose to as well. Not sure. I was pretty surprised to see my opponent play a Wormcoil and then still play a Jewel, but like I said, I think maybe it was just a mistake to not hit the seal on the Bauble. I could have even done that. It just wasn't like very good for me at that point in time in the game to crack a Bauble, right? Like I could have hit the Bauble on my turn when my opponent couldn't crack it, but it just didn't seem like it was very strong for me to do that. Like my hand wasn't really adversely affected by a Bauble until 3 turns later. I don't know. Maybe that's just a bad read. It's possible. But also just like my opponent having infinite mana with Tolarian Academy made things quite difficult, right? And then they had no negation payoffs in the beginning, right? They went Metamorph and then they went Wormcoil Engine. So my negation, the 2 turns I held open negation, my negation was stranded and didn't do anything. And then by that point, I have to play out I have to do something and advance the game. And at that point, they did somehow have a Jewel in their deck still, so I lost to the Jewel. Don't know. I could believe that last game was my own fault. Absolutely can believe that one too. I still think this deck is great. Like very easily, a worse version of this deck I played very easily for the prelim, and I won multiple matches against Dredge in that prelim. I won 2 matches. So maybe it's just a little bit of variance, a little bit of here and there. Maybe it's just a mentality thing. That's probably part of it as well. But I do think I put a lot of. I think I said a lot of good things in terms of educational stuff in these losses. So it's still probably worth the video. Thanks for hanging out. But yeah, this didn't go very well. There'll be more content coming though. I will try to fire the prelim on Monday so that people can have enough QPs to play in next weekend's showcase. We'll play a fun league on Wednesday, and then the showcase is next Saturday. See you then.